Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Master Site. Today I have a game one for you from Kings of Winter GT that happened just this last weekend. Before I get into the game, I do want to talk about one thing here. It was brought to my attention after the tournament had taken place that there was a change to a rule that affected my army. So that change was to host Shadow Beasts. So here I got the Manta Compendium pulled up. So the change is this little parentheses here. So before this, you could target an individual or you could target yourself with host Shadow Beasts. This affects my army, obviously due to the Pharaoh chariot that I have. I took host Shadow Beast 3, and his main target was to cast it on himself to gain the extra attacks. Um, After this was brought to my attention, I looked a little deeper and found out that this change was actually made on Friday, so the day before the tournament. It was updated in the compendium, but it wasn't. There was no public announcement or notification that the FAQ had been updated or that the compendium had been updated. So, I feel really bad that I was playing with an outdated rule and effectively cheated in my games, but I'm pretty upset that at the fact that the updates and notifications aren't being communicated well to us as players at all. I love the compendium. I love what it is, what it's doing, but there's been a lot of issues with the communication aspect, and I think once those are reined in, this will be a great tool. But right now, um, it it severely affected the way potentially the outcome of this event due to this rule not being clearly communicated. So I do want to apologize to all my opponents and everybody at the event that this wasn't made. I wasn't made aware of this before I was playing, but alas, we're going to go through and still do the battle reports as if this was the correct rule at the time of the event. Let's go ahead and get into the event. So, Kings of Winter was held at Metagames Unlimited in Springfield, Missouri. So I got a couple pictures of the venue. It was really nice. So this is the storefront, and when we initially walked up to the store, we're like, "There's going to be 30 guys in here," but it's actually really spacious. So this is when you enter the front door here. So all their games and models and everything was displayed out here, and then towards the back, this is their actual gaming room, which this is a picture when you enter there. So it extended quite a long ways back here. And in the photo off to the left, I didn't even get it, but there was a lot of other just tables for like Magic the Gathering and D&D, and a bunch of other games were being played throughout the weekend while we were playing our Kings of War event, which we pretty much had everything from the back up to these white tables. I think this table was even a Kings of War table as well. So and then they had some really cool like arcade games and pinball machines lined up throughout the back of it. So it was a really neat venue, very spacious, just a great atmosphere altogether. So really enjoyed that. So my first opponent, his name is Duane Richardson. He's somebody I've known for a long time, back since second edition. But he's in the military, so he travels quite a bit, and for the past few years, he's ended up in locations that there was not many Kings of War players or events that he could attend. So he's fallen out of the scene, and then now getting back into it again. So Duane actually issued a challenge to me, wanting to play me in the first round. So um, if anybody wants to read through it, I'm not going to read all of this, but you can go ahead, pause the video, and read through. So Duane challenged me and didn't really have anything to it, so I said, let's make it official and do the the real challenge. So maybe it's a little bit infused by Texas culture, but got to go in there and really dig in deep. So we did that. So my initial response with the mandatory GIF, and then Duane's response with his GIF, which isn't playing, but there we go. Now it's there. So really set up the weekend to just be a blast and a lot of fun. So um, I was really looking forward to it because of this. So thank you very much, Duane. We actually ended up hanging out Friday night and grilling out at our Airbnb and just had a lot of fun. So Duane's list, we're going to go through that real quick and we'll jump into the report. So Duane's playing Forces of Nature. Again, Kings of Winter is 2,400 points and a special character. So Duane has 2 regiments of Heart Piercers, a horde of Fire Elementals, 2 regiments of Forest Shamblers, 2 hordes of Scorchwings, a Greater Air Elemental, Karis, Charlotte, is how I've heard it being pronounced. The Gladewalker Druid, not fully kitted out. Ring of Harmony Surge, but I think Duane needed to save some points, so he took Staying Stone. Typically, we see Crown of the Wizard King on here for the extra range, but not necessarily needed, at least in the game that we played. So then he took the formation, so the 2 hordes of air elementals and the greater air elemental, all of them gaining regen 5 up, and then the greater gains aura brutal as well. So Duane also took the Drakon. So Duane has a lot of flying threat, and there's Duane, the handsome devil himself. So for those that might not know Duane because he's been out of the scene, he's definitely got quite a few tournaments on his schedule, it sounds like. So if you're in the mountain, Midwest, Southeast type area, you're probably going to see Duane a little bit more here this next year. So first game was Eliminate. I went over all of these in the preview video, but this is essentially each of your 3 most expensive units are the target, the key target, and then there's 1 victory point in the center. You get more points for killing these targets in melee versus edge shooting. And my monster rolls before the game to see what random aura, and I got Dread for this particular game. And this is our terrain, so battlefield setup here. So we got this is after we rolled to determine side, so I forget who chose, but I'm on the bottom side. So we got a forest here on the top left and the bottom center. We have hills top center and top right. 2 impassables, 1 top right, 1 bottom middle, and 2 height 1 difficult terrains, both bottom on left and right. Obstacles, 1 jetting out from the hill, and then 1 on top of the hill here. So, yeah. And this is partway through deployment. So for me, I knew deployment-wise, this building was going to be my my edge that I'm cutting off. So with EoD, I find if you spread too thin, you just lack the supporting resources to effectively have a solid front across the board. So pick a half or 2/3 of the board and deploy from there is my general goal. And then Duane's deployment, he starts deploying across from me with the less mobile units. So these are the fires, the 2 forest shamblers, the 2 heart piercer units, and he placed his Drakon already as well. But then after deployment, so this is everything's down, and Duane's doing his scouting at this point. I did exactly what I wanted, being on this half of the board. But I was very surprised that Duane just matched me on this half of the board. Um, Duane and I talked afterwards, but really I think that a key thing he needs to do with this type of list, he has the superior speed. Um, he really needs to try and spread out and stretch my lines. So we talk like Scorch Wings being over here on the far right. They're not shambling and they're nimble, so they can just move up and get over here and threaten my right flank, preventing me from just walking straight forward. I have to turn and address him here, but then I also have to can't move too far forward, otherwise the units from his middle push up, and then I'm exposing a flank one way or the other. Duane boxing himself in here really played into my hand as the EoD in this particular scenario. The tokens, let's see here, they're kind of hard to see, but my Idol Ashobik here has one. My Enslaved Guardians here, and then my Chariot Pharaoh is actually 5 points more than the Enslaved Guardians, so he has one and he's over here. These aren't loot tokens that slow you down or anything or prevent you from surging. They are just simply here to so that we remember which units we're all trying to face and kill. And for Duane, all three of his are the hordes of elementals, so both airs and the fire. So after his scout, it looks a little bit like this. And a little close up of his deployment there. And another thing we kind of talked about, the Scorchwings being back here with this forest and these shooters. This is a really, really unfortunate spot for them to be in. Their line of sights are being blocked off. They don't really have very good shooting lanes. They don't want to jump over these guys to prevent them from shooting, otherwise they're effectively worthless. So they're really limited in what they can contribute in this game. And I'm going to try and kind of push the advantage because of that. So I did get first turn, and I move forward as fast as EoD can. So 5-inch move with all the infantry. Shobik likes to run forward a little bit more, and the chariot goes forward a little more. So as I should just quickly run down. So I have the chariot, the troop of mummies, spears, regiment of mummies, a horde of infantry, regiment of spears. Then my guardians are these two large infantry in the back, scavengers here and here. This is my monolith. This is my undead worm, which, as described in the preview video, doesn't like to sit on the table because it's too big. Shobik, this is my monster that has the dread for this turn or this game, and then my soul snare with Sebek Ray sitting behind over here. Duane's two fire element, or sorry, scorch wings. His two heart piercers, his Drakon. If we try and zoom in here really close, he has two of his individuals. He has Karis and Charlotte back here in these forests. Then he has both his graders. The darker blue one is the formation grader. Let me get it better. And then he has his druid, air, fire in the center, and then shamblers. So pretty straightforward there. So a little bit close-ups of my line moving forward here. And then it's Duane's turn. He moves forward a little bit as well, tries to get some shooting lanes. The big thing here is that these Scorchwings, only 18-inch range, they're not able to get in a position to be able to shoot me. Only the Heart Piercers are able to shoot me, and it was only after they had to move a little bit. He got this one's leadership out of the forest, so it'll be clear shots, but this one I'll be getting cover from because it's moved. So a little bit more close up, and there. So his shooting here to here, he actually puts 8 wounds uh, from his two heart piercers only onto these skeleton spearmen. So he needed a 7 twice. I think he got it once, but he failed the second time. So he did really well with that shooting phase, but he needed one more unit to pump into him to get the kill really, and it just kind of unfortunate. It wouldn't have been the end of the world for me, but it would have been extremely useful because looking at the amount of shooting he has, I don't expect his shooting to get much value or any of my units off the board. So taking something off when I don't expect anything to come off would have been quite good for him. And then that. So my movement here, I move up another 5 inches. Um, and another 5 inches over here. So I hold back a little bit with the chariots. He is just slightly behind the lines of this mummy unit. The goal here is his scorch wings would be in range to come and charge me. So I don't want him to charge the chariot, not because I think he could kill him, but because I want to use the chariot to get into his shooting. So I'm in range of his heart piercers. So I want to be able to get the charge off and stop the shooting if possible. And then same with the giant, it is slightly behind the lines, so I'm letting him charge the front of any of my infantry units with his fast stuff if he wants. Shobik doesn't care though; he's going way up there. So this is after my movement. I adjusted the soul snare so he can shoot through this little line here at either one of these units he has line of sight to. Defense 3, so and no cover penalty, so I'm hoping to get some wounds and recover the wounds I took on my skeletons, which I did. So combination of the drain life plus the heal from Sebic Ray, the 8 wounds I had on me are completely gone. I ended up doing 5 wounds to his heart piercers here, and I wavered this unit on this turn, so it's not going to be shooting me next turn. So Duane's turn though, and Heart Piercers have regen, and he decides he's gonna regen all the wounds off of him. So, I mean, fair's fair. I take all mine away, he takes all his away, but he is still wavered. So, in his movement, he decides to just kind of back up a little bit. He brings the Drakon over here to try and give himself a little bit more room with the Scorch Wings. But really, not a whole lot moving or happening. Nothing that I'm too worried about at this point. He does put Charlotte to where she can shoot through the gap here to try and poke at these guys. And I think one of the Scorch Wings was in range potentially to shoot me as well. Either way, he only gets 4 wounds and doesn't kill me this turn. So on my turn 3, it's time to get in there, so I charged the chariot into this unit to stop the shooting. I made sure beforehand that both the Scorch Wings were a front charge if from the position I'm in here. I don't really care if these guys flank me. The Drakon can see me, but it'll be a hindered flank, and he's not getting the extra Slayer. The Air Elementals could be surged into me, but again, I'm actually okay with that because, I mean, without any crushing or Bane Shan, I'm not too afraid of what the damage output they can do, and then that puts them right in position where I want to kill them. So, yeah, it's one of my token units for one of his token units, but at this point, I'm okay with that trade because I'm also shutting down his shooting. So after my movement, it looks like this. Again, just pushing up the line. The only thing I'm really being careful with is my monster. Everything else, I'm okay if he charges Shobik. I'm pushing up even further. So, and my soul snare. Real quick look here. My soul snare has a line to Charlotte, who, looking at it, she was defense 3 as well, so it's the same thing to hit her as it is to hit the regiments. So I decided to shoot at her. I got 6 wounds, so I recovered all of the skeleton's wounds again due to that. But I don't believe I wavered her or anything this turn. For the combat between the Host Shadow Beasts and the Hindered Charge, I got 5 wounds. I don't believe I wavered the unit this turn. So then it is bottom of 3 to Duane. The back of his unit's here, just because of the models we didn't move it, but his full unit is here, charge the Mummy Regiment. Excuse me. Otherwise, he was looking at potentially charging off the hill into some things with the Shamblers, but he decided to kind of hold back everywhere else. And then Charlotte, who was over here, flew all the way over here at the double, so that she can be protected and not get shot at again. Just better positioning and inspiring as well. So. Yep, a little close up. So he ends up killing the mummy troop, which was pretty good for him because 14 attacks on 3s and 4s. I'm inspired, so might have been a little bit above average, but nothing out of the ordinary. So he kills it, and then he decides he wants to overrun, which puts him right about here. The issue was he was directly against the chariot, so he couldn't have just pivoted. The only pivot he could do would bring him facing like towards his air elementals, which the main concern for him was these enslaved guardians back here. They would have still been in his flank if he chose to reform that way. It would have kept these spearmen in the front. But he decided he was going to try and overrun. I think on a 5 or 6, he was going to be out of front arc of these guys, so forced me to at least surge into him. But I think he rolled like a 2 or a 3 is all. And he countercharged and did a couple wounds to me here. He also got a couple regen back on his turn. So this is what the board looks like at the beginning of 4. So at this point, I decide I need to just start committing. Duane's already kind of boxed into a corner, so I want to just keep him there. And I have stuff within charge range. Now that he didn't, charge off the hill and hold the line against me, I'm gonna push forward at this point. So. Everything that can goes in. So the what's it called? Enslaved Guardians take that flank. I maneuvered in such a way so that I could still get shots off with my Soul Snare first. I just brought the birds in for a little bit of extra support, and really they didn't have any other good choices or positions they needed to be in, so I felt that maybe get a couple wounds, a wound or 2 more might be worth it, and this position here is just fine. Chariot countercharges, stays where it's at. The spearmen and the mummies charge here. Again, just trying to create kind of a half line. The main thing was I want to protect this the frost monster, which went into the air elementals. And I want him to be as protected as possible, so I'm blocking out the flank on this side. These air elementals, the lip of their base doesn't count, so this monster is able to be far enough back to where this will be flush across. So this horde of spearmen or skeletons just went into these guys. Shobik went in here, and I decided to use my worm in this situation as more of a chaff piece. I didn't feel like I was going to be in any situations where I could get valuable surging surge flanks or rears. So I decided I'm gonna fly him up, hit these air elementals, so I can block some of their options, and then also block line of sight with him being as big as he is. Um, so I went ahead and did that here. Next, we just kind of went along, little close-ups with the combat, so movement here. A little closer look at what we got going here. So after combat, I get these guys up to 10 wounds. I had drained life into them. Or maybe that's just after shooting. No, it is after combat and shooting. So I drain life into them, and then I also attack into them. Get them up to 10 wounds, but I don't get the 5 twice. So Chariot's going to be sitting there for another turn. Get a few wounds here. Wasn't expecting to kill that. Did kill the Scorch Wings. And this being a flying individual, I'm not going to waste my time looking at it. So I turned everything towards the center where the real objectives are in those elemental hordes. Shobik actually killed his Forest Shambler regiment that he went into, which I actually didn't want to do. That Forest Shambler unit was going to kind of be a buffer for me to not have to take charges from the rest of his army at this point, but I killed it, so anything that really wants to, besides these guys, the air elementals here, anybody else, the fires, another greater, like positioning wise, it might not fit for double charge, but he could get a double air elemental charge on me. I don't think that's the best for him, but he has options now to come into Shobik, which will start getting some wounds on him, but Shobik's pretty tough, and he's still pretty insulated. Again, another reason why I brought this guy in here. He's just blocking the space for an air elemental to get surge flanks into him because of his positioning. So that's what it looks like at bottom of turn 4. So it is now Duane's turn to counter. And Duane decides to do a lot of front charges. He really didn't have many options for surge shenanigans because he wanted to get into the flank of Shobik on this side, but the distance between my units was too close. He couldn't actually move him and position to where it would work or fit because he has to keep that inch. So really his air elementals at this point, again, Duane and I talked about it, but his air elementals are just too far back. If his air elementals were right behind the Forest Shamblers, he has a lot more options of flying over and getting flanks. So if one of them was sitting right here, he could probably fly over and threaten a flank on the enslaved guardians. If the other one was sitting here, he could fly over and hit the flank of here or over here. Really, you just have a lot of options. Whereas right now, he's really limited to not really having surge as a tool this turn. So he decides that he just needs to charge forward. So the one of the air elementals sitting back here charges, double charges the horde with the shamblers, putting him up here. The fires go in here, which if we look, the airs could just declare a charge into the flank of my worm. But if he does that, it blocks off all the room in here, so the fires can't get in. So he just decides just counter charge, which puts him in the front, and then he brings the formation greater air into the front as well. And then counter charges the mummies here, counter charges the monster. And then these Scorch Wings decide they just need to stay back still. They weren't able to fit into these scavengers, but they did have an option on to the this horde. It's probably best not to take it because he would have been sitting off to the side. Odds are he doesn't break me, and then I get a free flank charge the next turn. So I don't blame him for not taking it, but again, the value of this unit sitting behind the lines over here, there could have been a lot more value off on this other flank. So close ups. He decides to withdraw over here so that I'm hindered. He regens, gets 4 back. And then after combats, he doesn't break anything on this side. And surprisingly, he doesn't break anything on the other side. He does only 8 wounds to the undead worm. I should say he regened all of his wounds that I did to his horde of air elementals. So he's rolling good for regens, but nothing in my army broke. So I got quite a few wound counters across the board here, but if everything's alive, he did do 11 wounds to the horde. So yeah, everything's still sticking around right now. And then so this was top of 5 at this point, and then my movements here. Oh, just close ups again. So after my movement on top of 5, I take the birds and the chariot back in here. I decide, this is after shooting. I moved the soul snare over here to shoot at Charlotte, who was sitting over here. Ended up killing her, picking her up, and I think I healed the monster within 12 there, so keep him healthy. And yeah, the monster goes back in. We countercharge the air elemental, and Shobik actually did the withdraw, and I was able to get into the flank of this air elemental here. I flew the birds up, so I wasn't able to get any closer than this, and I wasn't able to charge because there wasn't enough space. But the goal is if Shobik kills the greater air, then I could sidestep and move closer towards me, backing up in between these 2 units, preventing his fire elementals from getting a charge against me. The key thing with this is I could simply just reform and face, but if I face straight up, then he's in my flank with his leader point. Okay, well, if I face sideways, then he's in the front, but all it takes is a less than an inch surge, and then he hits the flank, and it's a flank charge. So I have to put myself in a position where he can't do either of those. So that's why I positioned in such a way. Otherwise, everything else went back in. I did on the right here, which I should have it closer. There we go. On the right here, I countercharged back into the airs, and I had to make room. So I saw an opportunity here. I want to get this unit because it has a bounty token. So I actually get this spearman unit out of the way so that I can get my heavy hitters, enslaved guardians, into his air elementals. So I'm going and trying to kill and get a bounty token right here, right now. His air elemental is not going to be charged by anything, which means that he can get some potential surge shenanigans off this next turn. But being objective focus, I would be fine with sacrificing any and all of these 3 units over here if I can get that 3-point token. So that was what I did here. And a little closer scrum over here on the left. It's just going to be ugly. Oh, I did get a flank charge here. We're hindered, but spearmen are in the flank. So So after combats, we ended up killing both heart piercers. So we killed the left ones, we killed the right ones. The scabs reform. I didn't have an option really to reform with the chariot, so I kept it where it is. After killing here, I sidestepped with these guys, trying to get to where the Scorchwings were in the front, but I was 1 inch shy of being able to do it, so I only did like a 1 or 2 inch sidestep. I needed a little bit more, and just reform from there. Over here on the right, we get them up to 12 wounds on the greater or the air elemental horde, and I do not get the 5 twice. So unfortunate, but they have a lot of wounds and they can only regen so many. So um, yeah, that's where we're at. Also, Shobik did end up killing. Shobik and the Horde ended up killing the air elemental, so we sidestepped. He is facing to the left, but his little mace here was killing skeletons unnecessarily, so um, that's where he's at. So, successful mission there for killing one of the air elementals. Yeah, so this is how it looks for bottom of 5, and it is Duane's turn. So he takes the flank charge here. He brings the Drakon into the flank, hindered against the chariot. He does get the flyover, pivot, and is able to surge and connect with the rear of the enslaved guardians. And then he counters the already wounded worm, who has 8 wounds on him, I think. And then he's going to murder some scavengers. So, yes. And then also his so a little closer up, he moved in such a way, shooting wise, he could see my soul snare with Karis. So this is the first time he's able to actually get a line of sight on him. So soul snare stealthy, it's going to be cover. So Karis needs 6s to hit and 4s to wound, and if he gets a 1 wound, I'm disordered, so I won't be able to shoot the next turn. So a little closer view. And he actually gets 2 wounds with his shooting. So Soul Snare is not going to be able to do anything this next turn, which unfortunate, but I think at this point we're in a good position, assuming that this Drakon doesn't just spike and pick up my chariot, which it doesn't. So this is after, but after combat, he doesn't kill the chariot, so he does kill the spearman. So I double charge these guys over here. I was able to get a flank charge with the mummies, and this frost monster is just tanking. Frost monster has ensnare, so he's naturally just been very difficult to kill, and he's been my target for either healing or the drain life heal effect. So he's been full, topped off every turn. Um, yeah, he kills the scavengers. The big thing, he kills the undead worm with the horde, but he doesn't kill the enslaved guardians with the rear charge from the greater air. I forget how many wounds he did, but he got me up to like 10 or 11, and he rolled like a 3 for the nerve. So very unlucky on Duane's part. That would have really been key to keep them alive, and then being able to reform. But yeah, I had some bad luck killing his guys. He had some bad luck killing me. So it's just been some flubbed rolls in general on that side of the battle line. So, oh, and then we get in the flank of the Drakon here. So after combats over here, we don't kill the Scorchwings, but we're controlling them just fine. The Drakon's dead. We kill the air elementals here, and turn to face. We're still just grinding here. We're up to 13 wounds, but just got to stay alive. Shobix got surged because, remember, he was facing left, so I just had turned and surged him with the monolith. And then a miracle happened on the right flank. The the air elemental horde died, which was expected. They were already on 12 wounds and they regened maybe a handful, but still, these guys should be able to pick that up. But I these guys a couple turns ago they were facing the opposite way, so his air elemental was here. I just turn him around, and it's only like a 2 or 3 inch surge, and my goal was just to prevent him from being nimble and getting anywhere he wanted. So I wanted to do 1 wound. Well, I ended up doing some ridiculous number with the 30 attacks, hitting on 5s, wounding on 4s. I think I did like 8 wounds to him, and I rolled the 9 or 10 twice that I needed. It was just ridiculous. So dice happen, and sorry, Duane, it happened to you there, because that was the top of 6 for me, and then bottom of 6, Duane's counter charges and whatnot didn't pick anything up. And then there was no turn 7. So in the end, I had killed 2 of his 3 bounty tokens. They were worth 3 each, so I got 6 victory points. And all 3 of mine were still alive: Shobik, this horde, and the Chariot Pharaoh. So it was 6 victory points to nothing. Win for me. It was blackjack scoring, so in the end, it was a total of an 18-3 victory in my favor. And then there was the bonus objectives that I went over in the preview. But my frost monster is still alive. I killed his, and my frost monster fought in combat. So in the end, I got a 19-point win for the first game, and excuse me, just had a lot of fun against Duane. So we talked quite a bit after the game on deployment and things that I want him to kind of look at and work on going forward. So, but Duane, after this loss, he went 2-2 for the rest of the games. So it sounds like he implemented some of the strategies and ended up pulling out a couple of wins for the rest of the event. So again, thanks for the game, Duane. It was a lot of fun, and hope to see you at some more events coming up this year. So that's game 1. Stay tuned. Game 2 will be up shortly. So we got 1 win going on to game 2. Thanks for watching, everybody.